What are your thoughts on NIL? And what would you have done with NIL money in your college days? Isaiah Fox signs $1.2 million for NIL. What are you doing?
I'm mad about NIL. I cannot. It's
That's
so
an honest
amazing.
answer right there. I'm very excited. We're at NBA Summer League here. It is your turn to introduce the show.
Yeah.
And tell us who our honored guest is.
So first, thanks for being here, and I'm with my brother always, Nick Paul. This is really exciting for me because this guy is like one of the gems of the league. Like you never see him down. He's always got a smiling face. He's had some really good fortune in the league, and it will not surprise me within the next 5 years he's a head coach of a major market team in the NBA. And this is my dear friend, Isaiah Fox. What's up, brother?
What's up, my man? Thank you for having me, guys. Thank
Paul
you for
Martino.
having me. Yeah,
And by the way, just in case Derek didn't tell you, when I get introduced by Derek, he usually says, I'd like to introduce you to my brother. His name is Paul, but we like to just call him the white Derek Brooks. And so when I introduce Mr. Brooks, I sometimes will refer to him as the darker Paul Martino.
There it is,
so
right there.
But when you grow up in the same household together,
right?
And mom, there were, you had to fight over what you got every night.
Ain't that right? Yep.
Brooks.
I've walked into a party once. This is no lie. I walked into a party once. Somebody said, "Black Paul Martino." I'm looking around.
it's literally it's self-fulfilling now, right?
Absolutely.
The joke is actually turned into reality.
That's
so anyway,
great.
With that, thank you. Welcome. Tell us why you're here. Tell us what Summer League is, what it means to you, and the journey you're on.
Man, that's a lot right there. First of all, thank you for having me. This is a great venue, beautiful place. I'm here at Summer League. This is my 10th Summer League, and I'm here with the Utah Jazz, but my primary focus is building relationships, meeting people maybe outside my network, and this league is all about building relationships. So it's a good time to catch up with guys that you used to know, catch up with guys that are across the country right now, see the players you used to coach, and hopefully build new relationships that can get your career even further.
It's interesting, Isaiah, because when you start talking about the network and the NBA, as with other leagues, but the NBA in particular is a huge fraternity, sorority. It's everybody that comes together, and everybody has the same goal. But the network is, you start one year and maybe 10 people. The guys on your team, the brotherhood you collect with. And by year 5, you feel like the entire league. And I was talking to our producers yesterday as we were walking through the halls at the Wynn, and they said, "How does this work? Like, how do you know all these people?" And I said, "Some of them I don't know well, but we've seen each other at every event and say hello enough that now we know each other's name. We know a little bit about each other." So just talk to us a little bit about that transformation from college ball to the pros and what that was like for you.
Man, I mean, listen, as we're talking about the idea of building relationships, the idea of seeing guys summer after summer, and also working out your own plan so they know you for how hard you work, maybe some of your defensive acumen or how you handle players in practicing. But my journey from college to the pros has everything to do with relationships. I was coaching at every single level, coaching kids, coaching high school, coaching college, and I finally built up enough courage to reach out to some of my friends that I used to play with and say, "Hey, I'm ready to take a next step. I'm ready to take a job for free if necessary," which they loved. And that's how I kind of got my foot in the door. And to that aspect, it starts with just the guys on your team. It starts with really building that connectedness with the people you work with. Next thing you know, you're friends with the people you are competing against, and they're introducing you to people, you're introducing me to people. And that's how it kind of snowballs into now you actually have a career in this thing. And now people are coming to you for advice and trying to get their foot in the door.
There's a huge difference in coaching and playing the game, right? One of the greatest players to ever play the game, Michael Jordan, when he got on the other side of it, he realized it wasn't as easy as it, because as a player, you have tunnel vision. You see the court one way. that way, when you start coaching, guys don't see the floor the way you see it. And so talk to us about that dynamic, going from a player to becoming a coach that helps guys.
Yeah, that's a great call. Talking about that tunnel vision, as a player, you are in this constant Hunger Games mode. Constant competitive, constant getting better for yourself with the idea that my performance is going to get me to the next level. When you are coaching, you have to have that aspect of getting better, have to have that aspect of competitiveness and working on your craft as a coach. But you're not going to take the next step unless you meet people, unless you have a good network, and unless people kind of know you. As a player, it's up to people to know you because you're going to help their team. As a coach, yes, you're going to help their team, but you still have to fit into the current dynamics of a corporate structure. You have to be good with the front office, good with ownership, and still have to be able to relay messages to players. It's not as tunnel vision and cut and dry. You know, you have to play this political game to a certain extent, but it's more of a game of being recognized and building enough relationships where people know who you are.
And by the way, here's the thing I would love to understand. You know, the pathway from player to head coach, which is where you want to get to. Yep. Now think about it. How many teams are there in the NBA?
30.
There's 30 teams. So there's 30 of those jobs. Yep. And unlike when you played, you know that everybody was in this limited band of age, for example. Everybody would play. They're going to be between 20 and 30 or whatever it was. Right. You got 65-year-old coaches. You got 35. So you've got how many people who played, people who didn't play, and you want one of those 30 jobs. Right. So what's it like to move up that ladder, and how do you wake up in the morning and say to myself, I got closer today?
What a great call. I mean, that is a hard question to answer. I was having breakfast with my dad this morning and kind of asking myself and asking him, man, am I doing enough? Did I talk to enough people today? Yeah. Did I get out of the gym enough to make these connections? And it's always a hard thing to really judge, but as long as you're taking steps and kind of moving that action forward, you feel somewhat good about it. And you want to be authentic in everything you're doing. You want to be authentic, especially with the players and the relationships you're building in this. So you don't want to have a mindset of checking boxes and getting too robotic with it. It is important, though, to have an idea of just keeping the action moving forward. You might meet 10 people one day, you might meet one person. You never know how it's really going to lay out in terms of how it's going to affect your career. But the action itself and the submittance to having to take action, I think, has really helped me along it.
Well, let me tell you one thing. Brooks and I talked a lot about Shedeur Sanders in a prior episode. And I'm going to bring him up in this context, a slightly different context than you might think. I tell this to my young entrepreneurs all the time. You said you're here to network and meet people. I tell them every time, every person you meet is a job interview. And you got to have that mindset because you don't know who this next person is. And it doesn't mean you're actually interviewing for the job, but you need the mindset, this might be the person I work with. This might be the person I start my company with. And so when it was in the news that Shedeur Sanders was a shitty interview, that to me was the part of the story that was, now again, none of us really know. We got some gossip from people we know in the league, right. But you can't show up and be a shitty interview. I don't care how well you play the game. Right. You got to be ready for the interview. And Absolutely. You're doing that every day right now.
100%. You got to be ready for the interview. We just drafted a player by the name of Ace Bailey, and there was some media stuff going along with him because he was not doing interviews. Right. Now, there is a certain aspect, there's a certain gameplay that some of these agents are doing in terms of getting their players to the right spot, and you might want to speak to some of that, but you're absolutely right. Shedeur kind of hurt himself, and the perception of what Ace did hurt himself. But when you are playing, when you are the asset, you can maybe find some wiggle room in doing that, okay?
You can get a little bit of grace.
I think as a coach, someone who runs a business, you have to be clear in your messaging. You have to be clear in what you're trying to attain. And like you said, you don't know how each conversation and each relationship, you don't know who knows who and how it's going to get around. So, my approach is just trying to be myself, represent myself in what I am trying to do the best of my abilities. And the cream rises to the top. It's going to fall out the way it falls out. I'm not going to get every job I want, and it just doesn't work out that way. You got to be ready for the disappointment, but you have to be ready to take the opportunity when it's in front of you.
You guys have, with the Jazz, you have one of the elite minds in the NBA, and Danny Ainge, who's played the game. He's famously in Philadelphia hoodwinked the Sixers a couple times.
It's just a couple.
Just a couple.
Just a couple. Yeah, he's won that one, just to be clear. Danny, if you're listening, we know the scorecard, okay? We got it.
He's been known to put some offer sheets out there and make the Sixers have to sign Paul Reed to $27 million.
Yeah. I don't know how that happened.
So he's crafty when it comes to it. And there were reports out there that, Ace didn't want to come to Utah, and then Danny jumped in the middle and said, we're taking him anyway, because I think at the end of the day, a guy like Danny has seen so much basketball and so much life inside of basketball that he understands that a kid who may have a preference doesn't understand the journey in front of him. And so he's going to put him in position to be a winner, right? The other thing, and I want to speak to you about this, is somebody, and you guys have a great coaching staff and a great young coach, and Will, when you get a guy like Ace and then you've got Walter Clayton and you sign a couple two-ways, to me, the hardest job in coaching, which I envy you guys for this, is to be able to take different backgrounds, different mindsets, upbringings, stardom, guys who are trying to work to get a paycheck, not getting the 20, 25 million that another guy is, then stars on a team. You got to get that collective group to see the same exact vision and goal. And how do you do that? How do you get multiple guys to understand, hey, as a team, the only way we're going to make it is by all of us uniforming together after that goal, even though we all have different, individual goals?
What a great question. I think that tends to be the secret sauce in all these team building things. OKC had something called the power of friendship they were referring to on their championship run this last year. The Pacers had a similar saying in their style of play. When we won that championship in Delaware, it was amazing. We had team fights in that locker room leading up to the playoffs. But something clicks, and there's various ways to do it. One, you stick with that messaging the whole year where guys know it. Two, usually some type of alpha, some type of leader presents themselves to also relay that message to the player as a player, which always helps the coaching staff. Three, sometimes just the evolution of the season. In that Delaware, for instance, the highs and lows, a roller coaster, something will spark. It could start with an argument between players where the guys finally get on the same page and they're basically like, screw it, we're here, let's go for it.
By the way, tell the crowd about the championship. Tell us about what the run was. Not everybody's followed it the way that Mr. Brooks probably has.
Right, so listen, we had some unprecedented success in Delaware. We won the G League Showcase with a 15-1 record. That's the midseason tournament in the G League. We went to the championship game that year. We lost to RGV, the G League team for the Houston Rockets, a team that's won 5 or 6 championships in the G League. The following year, had our ups and downs roller coaster, but we made it to the playoffs, found ourselves playing against RGV again in the championship game, and finally overcame the hump, won the first championship in Delaware. Back when, that year when Doc and Philly was really going for a run. And we thought we did our job in winning that championship, developing those players, and also trying to give a boost to our Philadelphia brothers so they can go on their run. The collectiveness, the intensity, the stress, getting players on the same page, getting these guys to formulate. It was after the pandemic, and there was definitely an agenda for all those players to get back to work, for all the coaches to get back to work. And that's where we probably had somewhat easier of a way than what people might not recognize. The idea of getting on the same page was in the mind frame of everyone because they wanted to get back to work from that pandemic. And then once we start going on the run and start winning, the messaging of togetherness, guys start listening. It's funny, those games can go with coin flips sometimes.
Sure. Just like poker.
Yes.
Like poker.
Just like poker.
But the power of winning, the power of momentum really helped things get the ball rolling. And the success was unprecedented. The relationships built from front office to everyone on the team is something that we still hold dearly.
So you brought up Doc Rivers. I got to ask you this question. There's only one thing I can think of when I think of Doc Rivers. Having been a lifelong Philadelphia fan,
right.
I must admit, I do not like this incarnation of the Sixers.
Right.
This team, ever since Ben Simmons, it's been tough to like this team.
Right.
Okay, just to be clear. But when I think of Doc Rivers, I can only think of one thing, and I want your opinion on it. What do you think about scheduled losses?
Schedule losses.
What do you think about that? I mean, that phrase is going to haunt him.
Yeah.
And for you guys who don't know, we're going to put that clip about schedule loss.
I mean, we just didn't have anything. It was, it was a schedule loss. That's how I felt. When you could see guys, they just had no energy, no legs.
What do you think about that? Because he's going to live. That phrase is going to haunt him.
Yeah.
Maybe forever.
Well, listen, I cannot say that phrase, but here's what I will say about Doc, and this is why Doc knows the deal.
He does know the deal.
Doc knew in Philadelphia he had to win to keep that gig, and we didn't win. And, that's something that you have to appreciate about his leadership. He was willing to put his neck out there. He was willing to keep that messaging that was just talked about, and he was willing to stick with that the whole year, which a lot of coaches don't do. Now, to the phrase schedule losses, which I need to not say that again, but listen, there's certainly times in the year, and Philly's a special case, especially with Embiid, with injuries, with not having guys. There are times where you can look at your schedule and say, oh, damn it, we got a certain team on a certain night after a back-to-back, after a weird long trip. That games are going to be hard. But the fans in Philly don't want to hear schedule losses. I definitely recognize
that's going to be one of those infamous lines. That's going to be like, wait, you had that one guy. What was he say something about practice? What was that? That's one of Brooks' guys. That line kind of follows him a little bit. Practice.
Right.
You guys had some unique, as you talk about the Delaware run. You had some unique characters on that team.
Yeah.
One was signed to our company, Charlie Brown Jr.
Yeah.
And then you had Lou King. You talk about how you get those guys. So these guys played in NBA games, and there's a big misconception about, you get put in the G League, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm in purgatory. But the G League really is there to help you find an identity of who you are as a player. You need to go to the G League to get that fine-tuning, to put yourself back on a path for success. How do you talk to guys like that may have just missed the draft but then got on an NBA team? What encouragement things as a coach do you tell them to play this game for the long term and not short term?
It is interesting how hard you can coach players. And one thing I did learn from Doc is great players want to be coached. You have a great player on your roster, they want you to keep guys accountable because they want to get into practice, they want to get their job done, they want to get better that day. And you got to treat the G League players just like that. It's not a harsh reality to lay it out in front of them. Their goals, what they want to accomplish, they're here now, and it's time to get to work. And what the great thing about it is these guys they're athletes, and in many ways they're performance artists, so they might feel like it's somewhat of the trenches or being in somewhat of a basketball purgatory, but once they get on the court and they're playing 30, 35 minutes versus sitting on the bench, even in Wells Fargo Arena, there's somewhat liberation, somewhat freedom in the playing. So where they're finding their game, where they're finding their voice through their game. And that little bit of confidence is what we're here for. That part of their development is absolutely crucial. It's why the G League was made. It wasn't made so we can practice in the death or give them messages. It's made so they can actually get game minutes. And that is the part of it where they kind of fall back in line and realize why they're there and what they need to work on. So getting them the playing time, laying out exactly what's in front of them has been successful in the messaging I've observed. And then you have to remember, we always kind of have bad cop behind us. We always have the NBA team as the bad cop saying, hey, you're here with us. The team thinks you need to work on X, Y, Z. We're here for you to work on X, Y, Z. What do you want to do about it? And generally guys fall in line because they want to get better. Yeah. And we're here to make them better. We work for them.
Yeah. Who's a guy that you've become friendly with that was a G League player that has now gone on to become somewhat successful in the NBA, and you've kind of followed his track and you had involvement with? Who's that guy, and what were some of the traits he had that let you know he was destined to be where he is now?
Alex Caruso, Haywood Highsmith. You know Haywood Highsmith very well. Yep. It's work ethic for both those guys, but it's more this idea of supreme professionalism. They're going to be on time. They're going to be dressed and ready to go. They're going to be aware in film sessions. They're talkative, not just there watching the screen. They're going to be aware and present in meetings, aware and present in any type of team situation. Haywood Highsmith, Alex Caruso, throughout the whole process, were fully present. They weren't looking for, I'm going to be on this NBA team. They weren't looking backwards of how they got to where they got. They were completely locked in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and down the line.
Flip that question. Here's the part I want to, being a CEO coach. So when I invest in a startup company, a lot of my CEOs are 24-year-old, 25. It's the first time they're running their company. My job's, I'm adult in charge sometimes. I got to teach it. So talk about your responsibility to those two guys, and they might not be in general, not those specific guys, but your job as the coach. What do you owe that guy back who shows up with that work ethic? What do you got to deliver to him for him to go, shit, I am going to be here at 6 a.m?
Right. I don't know how you feel about it, but it's almost, you got to give them the same energy.
You have to.
This dude's locked in. He's doing his job. He's showing up at 6. It's like, damn, now I got to show up at 6.
Exactly.
And I got to be even more ready.
Right.
You know?
Exactly right.
And that's kind of like, once you kind of meet these guys where they're at, that's when the real relationship builds.
Yes.
That's when the real teaching actually occurs.
Yep.
And now the fully engagement's there. You probably felt like, dang, these guys driving me just as much as I'm driving him.
It's a two-way street.
Yeah, 100%.
And you need that. You need that. And by the way, you know, we talked a little bit about Ace Bailey. It wasn't something I followed closely, but I always listen to Sports Talk in Philly, and you know what you get on that. One of the things, though, I do remember was there's a saying in all business. It always starts. Culture starts in the corner office, right? That's it. The one thing I remember about the Bailey story wasn't all did he come and interview with Phil? I heard all that crap. I remember they interviewed ownership from the Jazz, and I must admit, I can't remember the gentleman's name. He asked him for a comment on the Ace Bailey situation, and he just basically said, this is how it is. And I just loved it. I was just like, that guy's a good CEO, because there was no confusion, there was no nonsense, there was no, I'm gonna go fall for the little claptrap that's on the radio. This is my organization, and this is how we do stuff. Right. And I just remember listening to that clip thinking, yeah, the Jazz is a well-run organization. But you know that because it's a well-run organization because that guy talks that way, so you know it's going to be well-run.
Dude, I got to say, the Jazz is, I've been blessed to be part of the Lakers and the Sixers, amazing organizations. I love the time I'm spending with the Jazz for that aspect.
Yep.
We are singularly focused. We know exactly who's in charge, from front office to our excellent head coach. And there was no doubt that we were going to take Ace, especially watching the draft as it went along.
I love it.
Because Danny knows this game. Like, once these guys come in and they see what we're trying to do there and build, if they love the game, they're going to love being there. They're going to love the competition of it. And having the leadership in that aspect, man, I'm sure it helps guys who work under you guys. You know what I mean? It gives a beacon of light. It gives something to strive forward to for everyone in the organization. And I got to say, man, as a coach, it takes a lot of stress off. Because it makes the atmosphere more fun, more dynamic, more team togetherness, and it gives us an opportunity to really get after it.
It's funny you said that because as I was in Philly and I was doing one of these Philly talk shows, and the host asked me, this is the day before the draft, he asked me, who should the Sixers take? Yeah. and why, right? Which is, you know, that question can be bulleted anywhere. And he was trying to push, how do we get to Ace? And I said, first thing, we won't take Ace because the Sixers will not put themselves in a situation where they feel like they bullied the system, right? If the guy doesn't want to come here, we're not going to let him come here. And I said on that same program, but I know who will take him. I know Danny Ainge will take him because a kid that plays basketball is very good at basketball, understands that landscape, but you don't know what you don't know, right? And so you need coaching, you need good leadership, you need a great executive team, you need a good ownership group that will not only take the risk, but also lay out a blueprint to say, this is where this thing could go. You do your part, and we'll do our part, as Paul said. And when those parts meet, now we got combustion for ultimate uber success.
You know, this isn't the NBA of 25, 30 years ago. These guys can go into any market and they can have just as many fans, make just as much money anywhere in the world now because of social media. Fan bases are a little bit different. People are spread around the country. But what sets your organization apart is that top-down leadership, the culture coming from the corner office, and how much everyone is really locked into that aspect. How we are getting guys in the organization that share the same beliefs and have the same goals. And then you're not afraid, you know, to take risk, and you're not afraid to put yourself out there.
A traditional smaller market team, almost always competitive. I mean, in my whole lifetime, I can't think of too many years where Utah was not a competitive team.
Right.
But Utah's also in my lifetime, as far as, and I don't think they've ever won the big one.
Right.
It might be a long time ago, I don't remember. What do you got to do to get over that hump? Because when you're competitive every year, you know you're in the game.
Right.
And with the new parity, the way it is in the league, more parity than we've ever seen in my lifetime for sure in the NBA. So what do you got to do to get over? When we're sitting here and you got one of those fancy rings on from the coaching staff of the Jazz, what do you think needs to happen to get over that last level?
Well, it's going to be player driven. There's not going to be a doubt about that. Speaking to what you just said, man, every coach is excited about being in the NBA right now because everyone believes that they can win right now.
Yes, that's right.
The parity's there. We got to find that secret sauce still. We believe our culture's the best culture. We believe we are singular focused in what we're trying to strive. We need the players to take full advantage, and we need stars to evolve from this process of where we are in the draft right now, no doubt about it. But once that comes in line, I think there's no doubt we have the front office, we have the coaching staff to then get around our star and really try to get to the next level. Our fans are amazing. They still show up to every game.
Always.
And I think we're really close. You know, obviously the last couple years haven't been traditionally in the same culture of what the Jazz have started, but we know where we're going, right? And we see the light at the end of the tunnel. And that secret sauce, it's hard to put a finger on it, okay? But it evolves around the stuff we already talked about, and then getting that player, getting that star to really put it together for us.
The secret sauce is what every coach and coaching staff's looking for, right? Every year you're trying to find the right ingredients to make that and then move on. For lack of better terms, 29 teams each year try to go reinvent the sauce, right? I think this year with OKC, and correct me if I'm wrong, OKC exposed a little bit of their secret sauce because they were able to debunk the system. The tradition that you had to have guys that have been there and done that a couple years, where Michael Jordan played against the Pistons, got knocked down and beat up for 3 or 4 years, and then finally he got himself over the hump. You got a bunch of young guys on that OKC team that basically said, we're ready now, and we're going to take it now, which gives a lot of teams hope that we can produce a faster rate of our young guys that we're drafting, right? So when you start thinking of any team, not just Utah, but when any team goes back to that drawing board, how much does this get them ready now, younger factor into we need to put them on the floor more, they need more time, we need to give them more accountability, and what does that say to the older guys that have kind of paid their dues, and now some of that time's getting taken away?
4 teams, five teams, I'm probably missing a couple, really stuck out last year. OKC, Indiana, obviously. Houston stuck out, and the Pistons for sure. I think I'll throw Orlando in there, but they had this idea, I feel like, of changing the system. Not just having 3 stars, going a little deeper into your lineup, playing younger, different style of defense, a little bit more disruptive, where you have to play 7, 8 guys to keep guys fresh. And with the young guys, there's this idea of we can build some teamwork because we don't necessarily have that star yet. Maybe the ball's moving a little bit more. Maybe everyone's integrated. I believe that will be the model over the next couple of years. We'll see how it will evolve as some of these great stars are transitioning out, and some of the stars now will become the faces of the league. But I got to tell you, from a coaching standpoint, that's something that we're definitely looking at. It's like, let's see how deep we can go on our bench. Let's see if we can raise the intensity and demand of what we're going to do defensively, so we have to play deeper. And then where's the extra benefit of the team building, some of the stuff you might teach in the corporate world? How can we build this cohesion, especially with the young guys? Because there is maybe a perception of, you know, the guy, the franchise star, because they're maybe hopping around so much in free agency prior to this moment in the NBA, how we kind of get those guys and how we get players around them. Now I think it is this buildup of your young team and seeing how deep you can go in the lineup. I certainly feel that is a goal at Utah right now with our young talent. Is you guys are all going to play. Some of y'all are going to start some days. We'll rotate some of that. But get ready, because you guys are all going to play. So we're going to keep you guys accountable on the offensive end, on the defensive end. We're going to push the pace. We're going to up our level of defense, because now we have to keep you guys fresh. Now you understand why another guy's coming in off the bench. It's not because you missed a shot. It's because this is our style now. Yeah. And that's kind of fun, because now you get to coach more guys. More guys are involved, and it kind of makes the whole thing just kind of tick a little bit more.
These young guys are funny because they're coming in and they're crashing out. They're like, I'm coming in here, you're going to know my name by the end of the season, and I'm going to create legacy within the season, right? And there's this really funny video of the USA games where Carmelo Anthony is on either the plane or the bus, and at this point he's the older vet. Right. And there's a bunch of guys around him, and they're singing like a show tune or something. And he like takes his headphones off and he like looks around. He doesn't know a word of what the entire bus is singing. It's like all of the younger guys. And he did an interview after. He said, "That's when I knew it was my time."
Yeah. I mean, you probably deal with a lot of young players, man. These guys are into stuff you just don't know about anymore. I can only imagine how it is on that team dynamic. I know as a coach, the fashion is interesting, the music is interesting, and I can only imagine how Carmelo felt in that instant as a player. But yeah, man, it is. The tides are turning, man. This thing's evolving, and the NBA in general, I feel like, is doing a good job of adapting to it. And as I said before, man, I think coaches, front office, and even players are really excited about this time in the league because everyone thinks they can win.
I think the dynamic of the NBA, you're right, is changing. It's always evolving. Everyone in the league, they kind of look at what works, and then everybody tries to adapt to that. It's like, oh, the big man, everybody adapt to a big man. Oh, Curry, they won. Everybody needs to find a shooter. Oh, we need a 3-and-D guy. Like, there's always something there that everybody kind of lends themselves to. But to Paul's point earlier, when you have so many dynamic, brilliant NBA basketball minds who range in age, you know, coaching up to at least Pop's age, right? That understand the game of basketball. How do you get one of those 30 spots? And, you know, just to toot your horn a little bit, I think what the NBA is looking for is a great communicator to all of those guys. So when you start thinking about these guys who are listening to a certain genre of music or dressing a certain way or hanging out here, you know, I was in the club for one of our players the other night when I landed. And he said, "Oh, I'm having a birthday party, come shoot through." And a lot of those guys were in there. And I step in and I text my brother. I said, "You know, when you're old, when you think you hear the same beat the entire night. You know, the music changed. Yeah. People are talking about the song, and I thought I heard the same beat the entire night. It was driving me crazy."
Yeah, listen, I call bullshit on this. Brooks doesn't go to any clubs. like you can't make stuff. You can't make stuff like that.
Right. I was in and out of there.
I mean, he's in bed 9 o'clock most nights. Come on, Brooks.
But to Isaiah's credit, he has that nucleus of being able to speak to 1 through 15 and talk to all of those guys, communicate. And to me, the biggest factor in coaching is getting all those guys to buy in to what you believe as a coach, because your vision could be far off of what theirs is, right? To get them to buy in, and that was so beautiful about what OKC was able to do, is those guys didn't just like each other. They loved each other. If you watched after every win during the regular season, They put their towels on their head and they rally around. Whoever was getting interviewed, they all got interviewed. They all came over. They loved each other. And so there was no behind the scenes jealousy. I want to be the MVP. I want to be this. No individual things. They wanted it collectively. And that was a buy-in. Each one of those guys have been the man somewhere, right? Whether it was AAU, high school, college. So now you take all these guys who were the man and you put them all together, but there can only be one, just like there's one ball. So, you know, that's my kudos to Isaiah, is he has the ability to talk to all those guys and buy them in.
I appreciate that. And I work for Will Hardy right now, who is an excellent communicator. And that's something that I think over the last couple of years as a coach has really been an emphasis on how you communicate, how you're reaching guys. There is a holistic approach to development. Not only do we talk about physical load now in practices, now there's cognitive load we talk about when we teach. And that's where I try to get better. You know, I'll watch TED Talks on speeches, on body language. I'll make sure to be fully attentive whenever Will Hardy's coaching because of how great his communication is. But man, you got to meet these guys where they're at. You got to be able to talk to the star 1 through 15. And it's in all aspects of life. People want to feel heard. Even if they don't speak much, you got to be able to pick up on their body language. And to get the most out of these players, man, you really got to get in and build that relationship to find out what they're really trying to get after this thing. And you can't do it if you're just going to say, hey guys, get on the line. Will Hardy is amazing at building their relationship on the court and off the court. You can see him interact with guys. And as a coach, I almost just want to go over there and just kind of listen to what he's saying because they're having this like dynamic conversation and it's pretty amazing to watch. I learned a lot from Doc Rivers' communication in terms of laying the messages out there and sticking with it. Brett Brown was in Philly when I first got there. He was a great communicator. He had that new that Maine accent. I don't know how much you guys remember Brett.
Well, I always knew he was on the radio.
Right.
That's Brett. Where's that guy from?
All right. and you really got to focus on that because, you know, as I just said, you can't build a real relationship with someone unless you actually know what their goals are. These guys are 20 to 30 somethings. They're young. They're stressed out. They got their whole lives in front of them, but they have this fine window of really doing what they want to do, and you have to be there for them.
What are your thoughts on NIL? And what would you have done with NIL money in your college days? Isaiah Fox signs $1.2 million for NIL. What are you doing?
I'm mad about NIL. You know, I cannot. It's so
That's
amazing.
an honest answer right there.
It's amazing, man. Trust me, I'm happy for these guys. Man, I wish we had NIL. At the time, I wouldn't have did anything with the money. I would have worked my ass off. I probably would have worked harder because I would have been able to pay for extra trainers or pay for better food. My family certainly would have had a better lifestyle. Yeah. It's amazing how long it took to get this thing done. Yeah. And it sucks that I missed it.
What year were you at Arizona?
I graduated Arizona 06. 06. So I missed it by a good years, and there was a player by the name of Ed O'Bannon who I think got the thing started.
Yeah, UCLA.
UCLA.
Yeah.
Now I was and a lot of players were part of that big class action lawsuit.
I remember it well.
I think maybe we got sent like $3,000 or something like that.
Yep.
We probably should have held out a little bit longer, right? I'm so proud of these guys for getting it done. It's going to be interesting. We talk about the NBA evolution. That's going to evolve the NBA too. A lot of players said no, they're going to go back to college this year.
Right. You know, right, and that's the first time that tide had gone the other way forever.
And I actually think this year, you might know, was the lowest amount of college seniors in quite some time.
Yeah.
Lowest amount of form guys as well, because now the form guys want to get to the American colleges.
You got it.
It's going to be interesting. I think the players that do come out will definitely be more ready, which will make the game a little bit, we'll see how that's going to evolve. But man, it's hard to talk about the NIL because I wish it was around, okay? So it's hard to talk about a little bit. I am proud that they got it. I think the players deserve to get, whatever they can out of it. When I played college ball, I played for the University of Arizona. I played for a Hall of Fame coach. Had a great time. but man, it was somewhat of being a pro.
Yeah.
Our job was playing basketball more than it was going to class. And I think everyone knows that. I don't think I'm saying anything that no one knows. So
No inside game on that one.
No, that is very efficient. So my son's favorite player of all time is Steph Curry. Now coming in close at number 2 is not even an NBA player yet because he has not played on an NBA floor. Is Walter Clayton Jr. My son. He told me when.
How crazy is that?
How
crazy is that?
So my son is really good at picking out talent. When and our producer, he was in our pool. We did an NCAA pool, and we, just for good measure, we put up a couple dollars. So my son said, "Can I get in it?" And I said, "You won't be able to deal with a lot of. We got NBA guys in there. We got coaches, GMs. We got some family members do it for fun." And I said, there's very sophisticated analytical data that goes into this.
Right.
And my son said, just let me in. So he gets in. The first day he says, who you picking? And I said, well, I'm not going to tell you, but it rhymes with Schmookon because they did it last year. And he goes, no, Florida, because they got Walter Clayton Jr. He told me this first day.
Right.
He said, change your thing before 12 o'clock and they start playing. He said, you still got time. And I refused. He ended up winning the pool, winning the money, and he told me before it started.
I think it was his first cousin, Zach Martino, called him up and said, tell your dad, my dad lets me gamble, so I'm allowed in the pool too.
Get me in.
Is that what Zach called him, right?
Yes, we're being replaced.
Yeah, that's how we do it.
We're being replaced.
Yeah. So.
Walter's amazing, man. You know what Walter has that we talked about earlier is that idea of being present. I mean, dude, man, it's amazing the guys who come in, they just get drafted, and you can see them on TV, you can hear the media reports, you can watch them beforehand, but when you really get in front of them and see what they're doing, that's when you get a good idea of who they are. The poise that he has, the presence, the awareness of getting my job done is spectacular to watch from him. I don't think there's any doubt he's going to have a long NBA career. And it's going to be exciting to see how it shakes out in Utah, to be honest. Will Hardy spoke to this last year. He said it's going to be the Hunger Games in terms of playing time. And we got great guards, Keontae George, Isaiah, Clayton. Like, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. But those 3 guys, in terms of their whole NBA career, they're going to be there for a long time.
That's a great problem to have. And you talk about big shot taker, big shot maker. There was nobody bigger in the NCAA tournament. I mean, every time the press was against him, he didn't let the fans down, and he would hit these big shots to keep them in it or to win it. And for lack of a better term, my son, he said, when Curry retires, that's my guy. I said, he hasn't even played a game yet in the NBA, and already that's his guy. So
the kids know, man.
Yeah, they do.
They really do. The
They
kids
do.
do know. Yeah.
Well, look, I really appreciate all the time today. On behalf of my better-looking brother, Derek Brooks, I'm Paul Martino for Inside Game, and it has been a pleasure. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the television, on the sideline, yelling at some referee. as I look forward to that, because we had that one referee who was on the show. Was it Tim Donaghy? Was on our show once? You ever run into Tim?
Yeah.
You ever run into Tim? You just holler at him just because.
Absolutely.
Okay? Just because.
Absolutely, man.
I really appreciate the time.
Thank you for having me, guys. I really appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Fox.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate
Thank
it,
you.
bro.